Welcome from the University of St Andrews to our alumni, colleagues and friends watching from across the globe. My name is Katie Birrell and I work within the University's Development Office, and I'm delighted to introduce you to our first Saints talk of the academic year featuring Alan Sinclair, our Director of Rowing. The talk will last for approximately 30 minutes and then Alan will be happy to take questions. If you'd like to ask a question, you can do so via the Teams taskbar at the top of the screen. Please feel free to add your question at any time during the talk. Alan Sinclair was appointed Director of Rowing at the University of St Andrews following an 8-year career for Great Britain. He joined the university from the Leander Club rowing team, bringing a wealth of experience to his new position at St Andrews. He started his rowing career at Inverness Rowing Club aged 14 before joining the student team at the University of Aberdeen and the Leander Club in Henley-on-Thames. It was there that he broke into the GB coaching team and joined them in 2012. Alan made his Olympic debut at Rio in 2016, finishing 4th in the final of the men's pair, and was also on the podium at 2 successive World Championships, where he won silver in 2014 and awarded a bronze in 2015. Since joining the university, Alan has taken great strides towards realising the club's vision to deliver a world-renowned rowing programme where individuals and squads compete and perform at the highest possible level. He has grown a coastal rowing programme within the club, making use of our wonderful East Sands, and he worked in partnership with Scottish Rowing to deliver the inaugural Home International Beach Sprints Regatta at the end of last month. I'm delighted to tell you that the event was a huge success, with Scotland taking the title. Without further ado, I'm delighted to hand you over to Alan Sinclair for his talk entitled The Best Thing About Losing.
Hello, is that working with me now? Sorry, yes, I didn't see the bubble pop up. So thank you, Katie, for that warm introduction. That was great. And yeah, I'm the Director of Rowing, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight about what I think is the best thing about losing. Sorry, which is kind of ironic given that the university motto is ever to excel. And I'm not disagreeing with it in any sense, but I'm going to talk to you about what it means to me and how it's shaped my career to date. So before I get into that topic, I just want to start by kind of posing a question for you all to think about, and it's what is success? It's quite easy for me to kind of give highlights of my career, and on the screen just now you can see on the left is when I won the European Championships in the Coxless 4. In the middle, that was when I raced the Olympic Games in 2016, and on the right is when I was appointed the Director of Rowing at the University of St Andrews as my first real job. Obviously incredibly proud of all those achievements, but I wouldn't necessarily call them the peak success for my career and the things I'm most proud of. And yeah, that's just a question I want to start off with you thinking about. My background, as Katie said, I started rowing at Inverness Rowing Club. My dad co-founded the club back in the early 90s, and I was dragged along as a kind of 13, 14-year-old as with no physical potential at all. I was skin and bones and hadn't displayed any kind of athletic prowess up until that point. But I think I appreciated being a big fish in a small pond, and that small pond was me being the only junior in the club. I think the next person to my age was 30 years older, so it was yeah, a bit of a unique situation to be in, but I carried on. I rode, I raced, and I lost to literally every kid in the country. I think horizon job is probably the best way of describing most of the races. It wasn't a close affair, so I definitely didn't have an illustrious junior career in rowing, but I can't really describe what kept me at it. I think it was more down to the support I had at the club and the small experiences of feeling like I was making progress during sessions or week on week. I was only doing kind of 1 session, 2 sessions a week, and as a kid, it was still fun to be out in the water. So it wasn't until I got to university that I would say I fell in love with the sport, and I found myself falling asleep in every 9 o'clock lecture in my first year as a result of the 6 a.m. starts and the River Dee in Aberdeen. But it was the camaraderie, the kind of team, common goal focus, and feeling like I was a part of something special, even though it was, in the grand scheme of things, pretty modest in terms of what we were trying to achieve. And the next step that I took was to race at Henley Royal Regatta. That's what HRR represents, and anyone who's been lucky enough to go to that event will appreciate how big it is in the kind of British calendar. I was obsessed by the event. It was incomparable to any other race I'd done to that date, and being in a side-by-side situation where at some points in the course the spectators are closer to the end of your rower than you are while you're rowing it was yeah, you can't compare it to anything else. It's the closest thing to being in a stadium for a rowing race, and you're literally just trying to knock somebody else out of the event. And we went down as a university, and I had some success in the sense that we got through a few rounds and we obviously qualified for the event, which is still a big achievement. But I took it upon myself that I wanted to really give everything to try and win at one of the categories in the event. The other unique aspect of the event, just to give some context, is that you'll have different tiers. So there'll be kind of junior and club level, and then in between that and the top level, you've got kind of really top under 23s. It's called intermediate standard, and you'll have GB aspiring, international aspiring athletes, and then at the very top you've got Olympic standard crews. So you could be finding yourself in the program where your race is literally right before the Olympic champions in the men's 8. So you're rubbing shoulders with the best athletes in the world. I don't think there's many sports that have events like that, and that again was the huge draw for me to try and win my first red box, as they call it, for your medal. And I had to accept that I wasn't going to do it at Aberdeen. The guys I was rowing with were moving on, and I thought, well, we're best to go. But Leander Club, which Katie mentioned already, for those of you who know it, it's obviously one of the best clubs in the world. For those of you who don't, anyone who knows or have heard of Stephen Redgrave, Matthew Pinsent, that was their home club. It boasts the most Olympic gold medals than any sport in any country in the whole world. So it's a incredibly successful club, and I figured, well, if I'm going to get the best at myself, it's going to be there if I can get in. And yeah, although I did get in, I exceeded my expectations in terms of what I would achieve. It still took me 4 years to win my first medal. But in that process, in the kind of 4 years of learning how to train in a really high pressure environment and with athletes far better than I was, I every year stepped on beyond where I thought was capable. And when I did win my first medal, you can see in the picture, that kind of opened up a hidden pathway to the GB team, and it was after my second year of winning in the double sculls that I broke into the GB team. So and that is a completely different setup, because it's, as anyone knows, rowing, it's a hugely successful program, and as a result, a pressure cooker training environment. been built on years and years of successes, from the start of Stephen Redgrave's career, Pinsent to next Andy Hodge and Peter Reid, and up until today. So there's the weight of the country's expectation to try and fulfill, and Jürgen Grobler, who was the chief coach for most of my years there, he had the expression of "the train stops for no one," and that was very much a message to not to put added pressure on an individual, but more just to say that if you fall behind, you will be left behind. If you get injured and you don't get yourself back into the frame swiftly, someone else will be there to take your spot, which is a pretty overwhelming thing to come to terms with every day if you feel like you're a more vulnerable athlete. But that's just what you have to do. That's high performance sport. So context of what our typical week would be, 14 sessions every one, and Sundays we'd get off in the winter through till probably April time, maybe, if we're lucky, and we'd do in excess of 180 kilometers every week. I won't do the cliche and expand on the kind of calorie consumption for rowers, but the last thing was just that you didn't get an off time. 3 weeks after the World Championships, that was the only break we got. But I loved that existence. It was hugely rewarding for me, and there was a lot of trials and tribulations just to be able to stay in the team, let alone achieve selection. So I was really, really lucky. I don't for a moment think that I overly credited myself to that. So going on to the next bit, and falling short of expectations because of that huge pressure. There's a number of ways that I dealt with those shortfalls, and on the top left you can see me with a medal around my neck, and that was with my pairs partner in Olympic year at the European Championship, sorry. And we got a silver medal, and I'm kind of smiling there, but I was inside just devastated because I knew that I had my heart set on winning a gold medal, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We felt like we needed to win because we had a really tough selection battle with another crew in the GB team to get that Olympic spot. And yeah, we dealt with it terribly. I wouldn't say we sulked, but we in the lead up to the event, we would put a lot of pressure on ourselves and a lot of just a desire beyond what would normally be responsible. In the middle, that was in 2018, and European Championships in Strathclyde Park. Just a terrible row off the back of a few crew changes, and yeah, we didn't respond well to that. It was a big hiccup in the middle of the season. And then the right hand side, and it's the one that people most often comment on, fourth place at the Olympics, is what typically people say is the worst position to get. My comeback is usually it's better than fifth, but it was devastating to go through the year we had, and to know that we were good enough and capable of a silver medal at least, and to come away with nothing. It felt like was really hard to come to terms with. But I reflected a lot after each one of these events, and it's obviously easy to have the power of hindsight. There's times where I dealt with these experiences well, and times where I could have made a lot more out of them. So one of the other kind of setbacks, I'd say, following Rio and following 2018 was that COVID hit. and it was a big setback in my rowing career, in that it threw us out of whack at home. So my partner and I just had our daughter, and we were faced with having to move away from next slide, sorry. Move away from our location down in Henley on Thames, and yeah, we ended up resorting to moving to my parents' place. I had to do a bit of soul searching whether Tokyo was going to be on the cards, with a little one and everything that was going on in the world. It was a lot of uncertainty around what was going on for myself and how I'd change moving forward. But honestly, it's probably the most rewarding period of training in my life, because despite having probably an average of 4 or 5 hours sleep overnight, I was able to produce scores and speeds and fitness levels that I'd never seen before in my rowing career while down at the GB system. And that was because I was aware of the kind of the degree at which I'd have to move on and how I'd have to turn over every stone to be the best I could be. So I was training more critically. I was doing things more scientifically and Buddhist, with personal ownership over that. And in the process of being on the water on my own in a single scull, and having the space not to worry about what the guy next to me is pulling in the rowing machine, I really just my love of the sport. It's obviously nice and romantic to be able to say this, but my first ever 2-kilometer ergo test I did in my dad's garage in the picture you see there, and I did my last one in there as well, and it happened to be the fastest one I did. So to feel like I kind of rounded off my rowing career with those achievements was huge. And unfortunately, as a result of circumstances, British rowing not being potentially as supportive as I thought they should have been, I had to I had to make the choice of putting my family first, because moving back down south with them wasn't an option, and I had to face the fact that I wouldn't jeopardize either my partner or my daughter for the sake of going to the Olympics. So on reflection of that, and I know I've kind of run through my rowing career quite quickly there, but the career losses I had and experienced, I felt like I gained more as time went on. I could appreciate that there's more to be. I was lucky in that I think just by inherently losing as a junior, I'd adopted techniques that made me better at dealing with loss and dealing with not performing well, and that's what gave me the lifespan in my career to keep on going. And I've put up a bit of a cliche quote there, but either you win or you learn, and it's I think is really true, and I think it's something to be said for a lot of athletes. The big thing for me is that there's never going to be a situation where you can gain more than when you lose. If you win a race, chances are you're not going to know where exactly to move forward in, nearly as much as when you come second or third or last. You can have objective measures of how much you need to improve. So that, yeah, understanding that opportunity is really important, and becoming empowered to make that choice, whether you want to make a change, whether you don't. Another cliche, but it's really true, and something I impart to the students and the athletes I've worked with over the years and worked with today, is that if you do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So that's not to say you throw the baby out with the bathwater in the training sense, but if you just do the same old stuff, you'll struggle to make progress. And appreciating that personal choice and that process is important. So just to give a bit of context on the University of St Andrews Boat Club, it's a relatively small squad with relatively modest success domestically. We've got Henley Royal getting through a round or two. Henley Women's Regatta, we got the semi-finals, but we've got a huge ambition for growth, both in membership and performance. But we are faced with a few challenges, as any club is, and equipment, facility, and capacity disadvantages compared to the big programs like Edinburgh, Oxford Brookes, Oxbridge universities, and such. We're on the back foot, and if we want to be competitive with them, we need to some of those things. But we do have, and this is potentially a challenge as well for me to face, is that very intelligent students with very big aspirations to succeed. So managing those expectations and those aspirations is important for me, and making sure that whatever they do achieve, they appreciate. And this is a kind of what I used as my job title effectively to my boss when I expressed what I think is my success if I fulfill it at the university, and it's to create a program that enhances the student experience at St Andrews and provides an opportunity for development beyond academia. I'm not, as much as it's great and easy to objectify big successes, to me it's more important that we get someone to be better than they were before and give them teachings and learnings that they can take forward beyond university. And I think rowing is an incredible vessel for that. So teaching a losing mindset is kind of what I think about when I talk to the students. And to give a bit of context, right now the World Rowing Championships are happening, and there's 900 athletes. Only 21 crews will win. There's a lot of people who will lose at the very, very, very top level. So, and most way through their career, they'll spend losing. So it goes in a ability as well.
We're having a few technical difficulties just now, so if you just bear with us, we will try and get Alan back as quickly as possible. Just whilst we're working on that, just to give you a bit of a heads up on our next event, we have a Meet the Author event with Emma Seckel coming up. She is an alumni from 2017, and she's going to be discussing her debut novel, The Wild Hunt, which should hopefully be a very interesting talk. So please do join us for that. Hopefully we should have Alan back very shortly, but I'm sure you'll all agree that at present we have had quite an interesting talk so far. Certainly I feel it's a lot of determination and drive being shown from Alan, and you know, it's something that can only be really admired in somebody when they really do work to achieve their goal. Looks like Alan is popping back onto the conversation, so hopefully he'll be able to get his PowerPoint back up and shared very soon. Please bear with us. Just a few more moments, I think. Right, I think we might have him. Needs to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Looks like we've got you. Just need to share your screen, I think, Alan.
Oh wait, it's gone out of the way. There you go. Am I back on? Yeah, I think so. I'll just start talking. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened to my internet there, but yeah, I was saying how the last thing we want to do is focus entirely on the end result, and it's more important to trust and enjoy the process of improvement. The need to win, something I addressed after that European Championship silver medal, was appreciating the want and the positivity around that word to succeed is more important, and then losing sight of the bigger picture in pursuit of short-term successes is definitely not helpful, whereas being more patient and mindful of the long-term goals is really good to try and express more. So and finally, I want to effectively rebrand losing. Hopefully I've done a little bit of that today so far, but yeah, because without losing I wouldn't be here today. If I hadn't had to overcome the things that I'd faced, it definitely would have been shaping me in a different way. And I'll finish this part of the talk by adding a quote that my coach used to say, and I'm sure he didn't mean it in the same sense, but loser always trains harder, and I think it's he used it as a motivator for all of us if we hadn't achieved what we wanted to, and for by and large when we did, he used it as a fish in the end of a fishing rod to make sure that we were pushing on beyond, because the rest of the world is going to catch up. So I'll end the presentation there, and I'll hopefully be able to see.
Okay.
Katie.
Thank you so much, Alan. That was a great presentation. I think some of you may not be able to actually see Alan at the moment, but I believe that he is still audible. So please accept the apologies. We seem to have a little bit of a technical thing going on in the background, but hopefully you can all see myself. We do have some questions that have come through, so I will just dash on with those, I think, and ask away. And as I say, you might not be able to see Alan, but you will certainly be able to hear him. So the first question, Alan, that I had come in for you was from a Martin from Hamburg. Thank you, Martin. So Martin's question is that you said you kept losing against other teams. Who was there to encourage you properly, or did you draw your endurance from yourself?
I think that as much as there was times where I felt could have been a better support network to make sure that I was to make sure I dealt with the situation better. I think it was what I took away from it was when I looked inside and what I wanted to achieve. Losing gave me that ability to learn, and self-reflect is an important thing for me, and it's a very difficult thing to work to create a framework for students to try and have the opportunity for themselves, because spoon feeding someone how to deal with loss is not going to work, because everyone deals with it differently. But ensuring that the positive aspects are reflected on in a good way is what I try to impart on the students.
That's great. And kind of just following on a similar vein, Camilla has asked, after losing, there's always times when you need to reflect on what has happened, and which you obviously mentioned yourself in your talk there. and you have to readjust and obviously have a go again. How can we deal with that period of uncertainty and the need to work back our own pace?
Sorry, could you repeat the last bit again?
Yeah, no problem. Bear with me, I've just published it. Okay, how can we deal with that period of uncertainty and the need to work back at our own pace?
So yeah, there's going to be, I don't think that losing and the way I hope I haven't expressed the presentation in a way that you should be happy about losing. Obviously, we don't go out to lose. And it is perfectly reasonable to feel upset and emotional about it in a period following it. So processing that in the right way and channeling that into what you do next is the way I would try to suggest people do it. It's the more it hurts you to lose, the more you should take a positive thing that it means a lot to you, and hopefully that motivates to do a better job next time, whether it's training harder, whether it's training smarter, whether it's not anything to do with sport. It could be exams, it could be how organized you are beforehand to make sure that you do it right, and the days beforehand you're not stressing about trying to do as much as possible, cramming things in. So yeah, I think the days and weeks straight after the event is crucial to process in the right way and take stock of what it means to you to do well.
Excellent. I think that's some really good advice there, Alan. We've also got another question from Martin from Hamburg, and he is wondering where you train. So do you train in the North Sea or on some nearby pond?
So we've just I say launched. For the last year we've had a coastal rowing program that we're developing further, having had 2 beach sprints event, the Saints Regatta, which was the second largest beach sprints event in the world to date, and the Home International Regatta, which you sorry, 2 seconds. Can you see me now? Is that working? Sorry. So yeah, we do have coastal, and it is in the sea, East Anne's Beach, but we spend most of our flat water days at Loch Ower Meadows, and it's a setup that we're fortunate enough to share with another several water sports, but something we want to develop further so that we don't have a boathouse currently. The trailer has all our boats. We de-rig and rig every session, and it's really important for me to see if we can get it so that we have at least outdoor storage racks, and it makes things a lot faster for the students.
Excellent, thank you for that. Trevor is asking, where do the crew get on the water and who do they compete against?
It depends what competition we're going to. If we're racing in Scotland, it will be just the Scottish universities and clubs, and yeah, we have a fairly similar program of racing every year. But if we go down to Henley Royal Regatta, it could be anyone in the world. There's universities that come over from America, from Australia, that will race in the events that we're targeting. So it's a really big spectrum of where we get competition.
Okay, excellent. Anna from Stuttgart has asked a slightly different type of question, but very interesting one. If you were to pick between 2 people for a job position, one's a performance athlete and the other is not, who would you pick and why?
I'm not a recruiter, so I feel like I'm not in the right. Yeah, I don't know, because I need more context in that. But I think the benefits you have, generally speaking, what people have to overcome and what they experience in performance sports, it carries its weight in gold. There's a very unique mindset that you have to be And
Oh, apologies, I think we may have lost Alan again there. Let's see if we can work to get him back.
can you hear me, Katie?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's it. You're back, I think.
Sorry.
Good stuff. No problem at all. Do you need me to repeat the question at all?
Did you get me up as far? I just tried to say choosing the sporty athlete is better.
Ah, okay.
Sporty applicant is better.
Excellent. And why did you have reasonings behind that?
Well, no, sorry, I did. Yes, that was.
Yeah.
I thought I'd maybe get that through, but yeah, the stuff that performance athletes go through. Ultimately, they have a very specific mindset, and yeah, the focus you'd have to be a performance athlete in any sport, it carries weight in gold. So it's if we're comparing the same person, but one has performance athlete as their feather in their cap, then that's the person I would go for.
Great, thank you. Caroline is asking, how do you work on getting to the point of wanting to win rather than needing to win?
So it comes from the enjoyment of the sport, I think. I spent most of my career just I never sought out being Olympic athletes, being Olympic or world championships medalist or anything like that. I just enjoyed getting better day to day, and inside sessions just trying to be a little bit better than I was before. And I think that's what probably carried me through a lot of losses and a lot of embarrassing defeats as a junior. But so for me, it was enjoying that process of still getting better and being the best that I could potentially be. I think that is potentially compatible with anybody, because ultimately you can only do your best, and there's a whole heap of attributes that will dictate performance that are out of your control. It could be weather, it could be genetics, it could be all sorts of factors, and ultimately you have to accept that when the training's done and you've delivered your performance on race day, the actual outcome is kind of out of your control, but you can reflect on what you did and whether you did your best, and I think that's the most important thing to appreciate. And so I think hopefully you can derive a want as opposed to need from that. Yeah.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Alan. These are great questions. Thanks for sending them all through, everyone. Alexandra is a mum of a fresher, and she would like to know that she said, I believe you mentioned needing additional resources. Can you speak to what parents could do to support you and the rowing team?
Well, it just so happens that we've just started a Saints funder. So at the moment it's kind of the chicken and the egg, in the sense that where do we start with progressing the program? Obviously, having better athletes will create better results, because the athletes are the ones that move the boat. But equally, if we don't have enough or good enough boats, and we have really good athletes arriving at the university, it's hard to get them to stay and commit to the sport. So at the moment we're pushing to gain some financial support from alumni and donors inside and outside the university network, and so that would be incredible if we could create more momentum with that and reach our target.
Great, thank you, Alan. For those of you who aren't aware, Saints Funder is an online platform that you would be able to put into a search bar and hopefully find, and that would give you a bit more info, but we can certainly share that information as well if need be. Toby is asking, saying, thanks for a great talk. What are your tips for dealing with a persistent losing streak, either personally or when training others?
Yeah, it's super frustrating. I had loads of streaks of losing, and yeah, it is, you do get into a rut of feeling like it's not going to change. I think the best thing when I've spoken to athletes who've gone through the same thing, and it definitely worked for me, was to kind of step away a little bit from the process. And that's not to say not row or anything, or not to train. It's just to do things slightly left wing, maybe take up a different cross training sport, so that you can gain fitness or gain a new skill that might open your eyes to where you have weaknesses that could be improved upon. I know I definitely felt like it was only laterally in my career that I was willing to address weaknesses rather than just try to bolster strengths. It's quite easy to take comfort in what you're good at and try to make that better, but actually addressing the things that are holding you back is more important when you're in a kind of losing streak situation. But yeah, not losing sight of the fact that you're doing the sport because you love it, and it's not about winning. It shouldn't ever be about winning. It should be about doing your best, and it might be that the rest of the world happens to be getting better, and you're just always just a little bit behind that. So it takes a bit of time, and being persistent and patient is really important.
Thank you, Alan. That's really interesting to share. I've got an anonymous question here for you. Who won the last blue at St Andrews for rowing?
That's one of the students probably trying to test me a bit. I think it was Ryan Glimond. I want to say, yeah. So he just, if I'm not mistaken, but Ryan has got selected for the GB team this year's beach sprints as the GB Cox, and I'm pretty sure it was him. If I'm wrong, I'm very sorry, whoever did.
Excellent. That's a big achievement for Ryan then. So great to hear that. Hector is wondering, how do you deal with the pressure around you? For example, your training partner is doing better than you in training.
So I love the questions about how to train with your peers and your friends, because I actually felt, as opposed to a lot of my teammates, I really enjoyed that aspect, because I had such respect for those athletes. If they were in the same training environment as me, I knew that they were doing everything I was doing, and so yeah, the best feeling of winning was against them, because I did everything that they did, but just a fraction better. But equally, if I got beaten by them, I knew that there was the opportunity to see them in training and learn from what they were doing and do it better. Exposing myself to them by being sat next to the rowing machine or out in the water trying to just be a fraction in front was the competitive element that I think helped me achieve what I achieved.
Excellent, thank you. Got another anonymous question here. Saying, sorry if this was already asked, but does the university provide a grant or is there lottery money for outdoor racking or even a boathouse?
So at the moment we are working with starting work with the local council next to where Loughborough Meadows is, to actually get access to the land that we would potentially use. There was a boathouse proposal that was sent a few years ago, before my time, and on the grounds of I think probably a few councillors that were fishermen, and yeah, they didn't take too kindly to rowers wanting to build a boathouse. But there's yeah, so we're having those talks to try and see if we can develop that land and have outdoor racks, and there's the potential at some point in the future, maybe, but the first and foremost tactic is to get an easier access to the water and sessions without taking up too much time with the students. So if we can cross that bridge, then we can look to fundraising for that.
Thanks, Alan. Brenda has sent in a question. She is asking, keeping in mind that I know very little about the sport, how does St Andrews develop their team? Is there a club level and a competitive level? Are there tryouts for the teams? Are the teams co-ed? So just a little bit more background on that.
Sure. So the teams are so we've got men and women. We've got a novice program and a senior program. Novices are people who are just taking up the sport first year, and there are currently, I think, 30 sign-ups. That's, excuse me, both men and women. In the senior men and senior women, we've tried to cap it at 32, so 16 men, 16 women, and just it's purely because of capacity. I'd love to have more, but it does mean that there's going to have to be a bit of a cut effectively at the end of this week. And I hate having to do that because I'd love for anyone who wants to row to row at the university, but I think, without being mean to those who are cut, the standard at which we're looking at is certainly achievable for most former rowers if you wanted to get in the senior program. So it's we're quite open to making sure that we get the best athletes possible and working around their schedules, and because we do have some very committed athletes who have medicine and very hectic academic schedule, and so yeah, the program's growing, but when we get more boats and more ability to get in the water, I'd hope to increase that membership size as well.
Great, thank you. We've got Lara, who is contacting us all the way from Abu Dhabi, who has a question about nutrition. You mentioned the nutrition requirements for the elite athletes in your talk. How do you advise the St Andrews athletes?
So ultimately, the most important thing is to have enough food to keep you energized. I didn't touch on it at all when I spoke about the lockdown period, but I'm not a dietitian nutritionist, so I wouldn't ever I would advise to go and speak to somebody who is qualified to know those things, but I can speak from experience that the biggest change in my diet that gained me a performance advantage was actually going vegan, and I did it for a completely different reason, but it was ethical reasons. But I got a massive bonus of performance, which was definitely well received when as the only factor I can think that beyond being methodical with my training, given that my lack of sleep was so significant and everything else was pretty much the same, there's no reason for me to go as fast as I did, other than because maybe my diet was better. So I don't know, what it might have been because of just as simple as that, or it could have been that I was more mindful of what I was eating rather than just eating everything. But when I do talk to the athletes, when I do get questions of what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat, the first question I ask them is, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to put on weight because you're struggling for energy, or you just feel like you want to be stronger, or are you trying to lose weight to get a calorie deficit? But the most important thing to be in the program is to be healthy and not put too much pressure on yourself with your diet, because there'll be times where you don't have the motivation. You need to get home and just eat whatever you feel like, and so it's really crucial to get that balance right. They're not going to be international athletes overnight, so any change you make has to be maintainable.
Excellent, thank you. Stuart Hasty has also written in a question. He is wondering if the club has an annual race against another university like Oxford and Cambridge, Glasgow and Edinburgh, Dundee and Stirling. And if not, can you see the benefit of this event or goal, and do you have aspirations to set something like this up?
Short answer, no, we don't. And yes, I'd love that. There's been talks to do some stuff with Dundee University, but yeah, I'm not sure. Well, they're not even at the standard we are. But yeah, it's something that we definitely should try to investigate, and I think it would be hugely rewarding if we could get an annual fixture against a soon-to-be rival university.
Great, that would definitely be something that I think would draw a crowd anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah.
An anonymous question here. Is rowing still called boat in the university prospectus? I joined the uni for the quality of the university and the courses, but have not seen rowing in the sports offered. I was dismayed to be hanging up the lycra after a good junior career. Delighted I could still go rowing, albeit the time on the Eden.
Oh, so it was a good few years ago, wasn't it, Eden? Yeah, so it's still referred to as the boat club, University St Andrews Boat Club. Sorry that you didn't manage to row whilst you were at university, but yeah, I think there's been obviously before my time the club's been different in terms of its capacity. I know when it started out, it was more of a drinking club, from what I understand, but it's definitely now, and it's going to be this way for some time, certainly as long as I'm here, is performance sport. So we're looking to capture those who have rowed before and to attract those who haven't rowed that want to. And to those that see rowing as an attractive sport to be part of.
Great, thank you. And I've just noticed that came from Richard, whose name hadn't been popped on the question. So just thank you, Richard, for popping that up there. I've got another question here from Gloria. If you could go back in time to your training and competitions, is there anything you would do differently?
I think, yeah, lots of things. It's easy to have the power of hindsight. But that being said, I wouldn't have I wouldn't be the person today if I hadn't made those mistakes. It took me time to develop the skills of how to learn and how to deal with certain situations, scenarios. I think as much as I'm going to sound like a vegan preacher, I think genuinely, if I could have turned into a vegan earlier, I think that would have made a massive difference to my career. But it took me a long time to open my eyes to certain things, and yeah, I needed to go on that journey. So yeah, I wouldn't change much.
Excellent. Trevor is asking what boats St Andrews have access to and what boats do you aspire to have access to?
So we have access to the newest boats in our fleet are a Cox's 4 slash Cox's Quad, and a pair slash double scull, which is they're both Hudsons, and they're both great boats. The former one was used as a quad at Henley Royal Regatta last year, and the double and pair has been used successfully at a number of events in Scotland. But I would love for there to be a really competitive 8 that could be used by both men and women, and because I don't think any rowing program is complete, or is not. Any self-respecting program has a good 8, and it's what everyone thinks about when they go to university is rowing in the boat race, and all those collegiate type events are raced in 8s. So unfortunately, it's the most expensive boat, but it's the one that we're targeting, because I want to get as many people in the same crew and racing for the same thing as possible.
Great, thanks, Alan. Anna from Stuttgart again, she's asking, well, she's saying, first of all, thank you so much for your answers and for being so open. She's wondering if you have some advice for those really bad times. Do you have a ritual, something you do or say to yourself to drag yourself out of very unmotivated phase?
I've been lucky in that I've had a really great support network at home since meeting my now fiance. She's been great at making sure that I keep my head on my shoulders, and I had a dog for a while, and he was great at just snapping me out of what life really is. And as much as we pour our heart and souls into sports, and we spend years and years, decades in my case, in the pursuit of just making a book go a little bit faster than anybody else. But in the grand scheme of things, all it really matters to is yourself. And if you try to think about what it means to somebody else, you will struggle with motivation. There's bigger things, more special things in the world that than you currently think today. And I think that realization took me a while to probably reflect on. But yeah, a good few years into my time in the team, I was able to have that realization. And yeah, so I never spent too long in the depths of despair when I was struggling, but I was very lucky to have that support and to be able to look out outside of my bubble and reflect that, yeah, there's more to life.
Excellent, thanks, Alan. And we've got one last question here from Richard. Have you adapted the national squad training regime to the student training, say to reach goals such as Henley qualification, and do they stick with it?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit for me there. Is it about the...
Bear with me one second. So have you adapted the national squad training regime to the student training, say to reach goals such as Henley qualification, and do they stick with it?
Yeah, so the program that it's not dissimilar. Obviously, it's not nearly as big in volume because the time obviously wouldn't work, and yeah, they're not full-time athletes that are being paid to train. There's been a few changes to how I deliver the program, in that we have to be more time efficient. And but so far the athletes have not only adopted it and seen it through, but they've seen a lot of success from it. I think there's a lot to be said for polarized training. There was a number of years I spent just pulling as hard as I could, and every single training session going as fast as I could. But I think while that has its merits, it's good to be a little bit more smart for the large part. Yes, you have to expose yourself to working hard, but it's working smart is going to take you further in the long term.
Excellent, thank you so much, Alan. And that is us coming to the end of today's Saints Talk. We've come up to the end of our time. Thank you so much, Alan, for your talk. It was really, really interesting. I think there's been quite a lot of lessons learnt for many of us in terms of how to overcome struggles, and also it's really, really inspiring to hear about your determination to reach your own goals. There obviously were quite a lot of very good questions there, and it was great to hear that there's so much support for the boat club. We have published in the live Q&A section the link to the Saints Funder, which outlines kind of the goals of the club, and it's where we're obviously about to embark on an ambitious campaign to raise some funds for those much needed boats that Alan's been talking about. So please do feel free to have a look, even if you just want to have a wee read about a bit more of the club's aspirations, because you'll get some information there. But thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you for taking time out of your evening. Hopefully we'll see as much of you as possible at our following Saints Talks that we have coming up, including the Meet the Author that we'd mentioned, which I did notice someone had asked the date, so it's on the 4th of October at 5 p.m. And yeah, thank you again, Alan, and thank you very much all for joining us.
Thank you.